DICE is sticking with Battlefield 2042 instead of Star Wars. Warzone 2 is happening, Crysis 4 was announced, and much more in Today in Gaming. Hey guys, Level Cap here, and sources at EA claim Battlefront 3 isn't happening anytime soon. They spoke to VentureBeat and said the studio is focused on Battlefield 2042. Development of future EA Star Wars titles is currently in the hands of Respawn. They're working on at least 3 new Star Wars titles, a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, a new FPS game, and a strategy game by former XCOM developers. EA's recent Star Wars games have been very well received. Fallen Order was widely praised as a Dark Souls game for the masses. Star Wars Squadrons by EA Motive brought back the classic X-Wing nostalgia and deep combat system, online multiplayer, and incredible visuals. Even Battlefront 2 is well regarded now despite its controversial launch, and that does make it a bit curious to see the publisher not pushing for Battlefront 3. It seems like an obvious moneymaker if done well. Regardless, it's good news for Battlefield fans worried about EA and DICE dropping support for 2042. The game isn't a total loss considering leaks put its active player count around 50,000, but 2042 has a long road ahead. DICE haven't announced a roadmap for the game either, prompting concern that plans for post-launch support have changed based on the dwindling player base and negativity surrounding the game. Leaker Tom Henderson claims that DICE developers are making incredible progress on feature content and updates, but says the marketing just isn't caught up yet. As for the Star Wars games being developed by Respawn, we don't have any details. Fallen Order is expected to get a reveal sometime this year with a potential 2023 release date, but that's mostly speculation. EA also faces stiff competition from Ubisoft and other major publishers releasing their Star Wars titles over the next few years. EA previously enjoyed the exclusive license to the Star Wars franchise, but that expired this time last year, and that gave them a healthy head start. It'll be interesting to see what other developers bring to the table, and that's where I want to know what you guys think. Are you excited for Respawn's upcoming Star Wars games? Do you think we need a Battlefront 3 right now? Let us know in the comments. Warzone 2 is officially a thing. According to industry insider Jason Schreier, he says Activision plans to launch a sequel to the Call of Duty Battle Royale title next year. He also says the next 3 games in the franchise will be available on PlayStation consoles despite the pending acquisition by Xbox. Head of Xbox Phil Spencer stated the company intends to honor all of Activision's existing commitments with their multiple titles, but that likely means once those commitments have been fulfilled, it all goes to Xbox. 2024 could be an interesting year for Call of Duty if it becomes an Xbox exclusive. But in the short term, Warzone 2 is sure to be good news for fans. Leaks suggest that it'll be a current gen and PC only title that doesn't carry over Warzone 1's content. It's a fresh start built for next gen hardware. Now, Warzone 1's post-launch updates have routinely introduced game-breaking exploits and technical problems. On top of that, its anti-cheat solution was wildly ineffective until this year's integration with Vanguard, and even then there are concerns that it's still not effective enough. A fresh start could be exactly what Warzone needs, especially considering it currently has over 100 different guns. Balancing all those weapons and their attachments is a nightmare for the developers, and the devs seem to opt for making newer guns more powerful so older guns need less attention. In less positive Call of Duty news, unionization efforts by Raven Software's QA team are going ahead without official recognition by the studio or Activision. They formed the Game Workers Alliance Union after layoffs hit their department despite being promised permanent positions. It currently represents 34 developers. Since Activision won't voluntarily recognize the union, it'll likely vote to force the bargaining process. Blizzard announced a new survival game for PC and console. There's no title or concrete information about the game right now. The developers are currently hiring senior positions for it and say it's a vast realm of possibility waiting to be explored. It's likely still in pre-production based on this info. The art released so far leans toward a naturalistic fantasy style. It'll be an entirely new IP for the studio, not based on existing games or characters. Crytek announced Crysis 4 is officially in development. They released a teaser that basically says nothing about what to expect beyond the nanotech and destroyed urban environments the franchise is known for. Crytek just launched remasters of the original 3 Crysis games last year, likely to gauge interest in the franchise and get some cash flow for development. Crysis 4 is the working title for the upcoming game, but it'll probably be called something else at launch. Crysis 3 launched in 2013, and despite its age, it's still one of the best looking games around. There's no telling what sorts of benchmark Crysis 4 will set for visuals. Halo is definitely back if the player count of Infinite is anything to go by. Microsoft announced the latest entry in the Master Chief Saga has more than 20 million players, making it the biggest Halo launch in history. Given the hype surrounding Infinite and its multiplayer being free to play, it's no shock that the game is popular. It's also done quite well with critics who see it as a return to form for the franchise. Players, however, are a little more mixed on it, particularly the multiplayer transaction system, but the developers are constantly rolling out tweaks that make the system more fair. The real question is where Halo Infinite goes from here. Season 2 is launching soon, Forge mode is expected to launch with Season 3, and co-op should follow soon after. Those are massive features that will add tons of replayability and longevity. Nvidia might be dropping their bid to buy semiconductor company ARM for $40 billion. They make the world's most widely used computing hardware and offer a very generous license for it. Everything from smartphones and home devices to Apple's current desktop and mobile devices utilize ARM. And this raises significant concerns about Nvidia acquiring ARM. Regulators like the FTC are currently suing to stop the deal from happening. Nvidia are allegedly dropping their bid instead of trying to fight the lawsuit. In lieu of an acquisition, ARM will likely become a publicly traded company. Valve released a beta update for Half-Life 2 that implements a controller-based UI. Any Half-Life 2 games, like the standalone episodes, also work with the new UI. To see it, download the beta build in Steam and run it with the launcher parameter -gamepad UI. The new UI is a considerable improvement over the original source version. It scales appropriately with the resolution of your monitor, and the controller implementation is built in, rather than relying on Steam Controller API. These updates are being made in preparation for the Steam Deck, but even if that device crashes and burns on launch, it's great to see Valve making their legendary titles more accessible. Before we get to our final story today, I just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. If there are any stories that we missed, leave them in the comments. We only have so much time to cover the news, so knowing what you guys want us to cover helps us make it a better show. The fan-made Resident Evil 4 HD remaster finally has a release date. It launches on February 2nd and works with the Steam version of the game. And based on other fan-made remasters, you're probably expecting some AI upscale textures and wonky-looking anime character model replacements, but not this time. The developers of this mod literally went to the real-world locations that the game is set in to capture their own textures and references for the project. On top of creating more realistic assets, the remaster also improves lighting, enhances objects and character models, and fixes the texture mapping issue. The goal is to preserve the game's design as much as possible while updating it to undo the technical limitations it was originally developed with. The teaser trailer that they released announcing the launch date would easily be mistaken for an official remaster. Ironically, rumors are suggesting that Capcom is working on an official remaster. They've had massive success with the remakes of the first 3 games in the franchise. Resident Evil 4 was a huge leap for the franchise and is widely regarded as the best entry. A proper remake would be fantastic, but even if we never get one, the fan remaster looks like it's going to be more than enough to preserve the game's legacy. And that wraps it up for today in gaming. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.